Hi everyone, I'm Linda Reed-Enever and welcome back to our final skills webinar for 2018. We have brought back one of our most popular guests from this year, Megan from Meet Edgar, and she's going to share with us tips on how to save time and make the most of the time that we spend on social media. As every business owner knows in the world out there, social media is a great way to promote your business, but it also is a massive time warp where you can lose hours and hours of time in your day. I'm a big Meet Edgar fan. I've used it on and off for the last 5 years since we've been running Media Connections and BBB, and it has been one of the tools that we moved to when we started doing social media programming and Family Capers, which we started 10 years ago, which is a little bit scary to say that's going to turn 10 next year. So it is one of these tools that we have used quite frequently. I am back using now consistently inside of our business, and Megan is even letting you know a secret today that there's going to be Insta there soon. So she's going to be back to teach us all Insta stuff in February next year. So that's going to be cool as well. So Megan, welcome.
Thank you, and congratulations on 10 years. I didn't know that. Very exciting.
Oh yeah, the Family Caper site has been around that long. I know. It's scary.
That's awesome.
My daughter's turning 10 too, and I have to adjust to that fact. Okay, I'm so excited to have you here today talking social media with us again. As I said, you were one of our most popular guests in the past. And I'm keen to see how things go along today. Once again, guys, jump into the chat box if you've got anything that you want to pop in chat. If you're watching the live stream, there's a link in the webinar that Megan has kindly offered for those of you who want to check out Meet Edgar today, and I'm about to put it in the chat here, to get a 1-month trial, and you need the code business.
Yeah, that's definitely testing out any new tool is always a little bit scary too. So if you guys do sign up, feel free to reach out also. I'm actually our onboarding coach, so I help people set up their new accounts, talking about your goals a lot all the time. So you're never alone when you're using a tool like Edgar. So definitely grab that code that she'll give you if you're interested in using a tool to help with this.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, Lee, Lee's just asked on the live stream, can I put the link into the tool? I am about to. It is up in the top, but I'll jump into the live stream as well. We're here in the webinar. It is a case of where we're sitting today, Lee. There's a couple of things happening, but we will get a comment into that one hopefully for you now. There we go. Here we go. So, okay, Megan, just on a slight side note there, I would love to have you come into the 52-week marketing challenge with me next year, because Meet Edgar is one of the tools I'm going to show people to use and actually go through an onboarding process with us. That would be cool.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. That sounds like a blast.
So if anyone's looking for what quarter one's expert session's going to be, it's going to be with Megan. There we go.
Good. So grateful for you guys. It's such a fun community you have, and you're doing so much, and like that's what it's all about on social media too, like diversifying everything. So that's cool to see that you're practicing that.
Beautiful. Okay, let's get started. Let's get talking about social media today.
Absolutely. So super grateful that we have the opportunity to go through this, because social media really is one of those things, like we were saying, that's so cool for small businesses, because it's a free platform that you can reach so many people on, and you can share your message, offering them so much value. So we're going to go through some tips and tricks today that'll just really help to streamline the process, because when it comes down to it, we want you to be working on your business in a really meaningful way, and make sure all the time that you're spending is contributing to growing your business and not necessarily posting on social media all the time. So those two can fit together really well. So we'll jump in here, and I am just going to share some slides here with you as we walk through this. So pardon the super awkward switch over here for a minute.
As we were saying before, this is the human side of the business. It's about showing what's going on. Now, I do stop video for you and I, because I've noticed Zoom cuts our heads off otherwise. So
gosh, that's never fun.
When in the replay for YouTube, I'll work out how to fix it later. But otherwise, it stops. It cuts our heads off.
Interesting. Super interesting.
And who wants our heads cut off? So I'll stop video while we're in screen share mode and bring us back on later. There we go.
All right, perfect. So this webinar is called Less Work, More Traffic. So we will jump right in, because as I mentioned, your time is your currency when it comes to social media. You want to make sure that you're using it wisely. So if you do have questions that we don't get to today, definitely let us know. You can email support@meetedgar.com. You can tweet at us. We're doing an Edgar webinar hashtag to make sure that we always follow up and answer your questions as well. And this is a really great way to keep the conversation going afterwards. So definitely feel free to do that. There's the code. I know that the link was put in there, but business will get you that free month. If you have any problems at all, support@meetedgar.com, and we'll make sure we hook you up with that free month. So when it comes down to it, we want you to first and foremost start asking yourselves, are there things you're doing over and over again that could be automated in your business? This is a question you can ask about any area of your business, but it especially becomes apparent in social media. If you start tracking your time and you start seeing where it's going, oftentimes when you're posting on social media, you'll find yourself getting pulled in every which direction and going onto your personal page, going and looking at a cool article that you saw a headline for on there. So having an automation and a strategy tool set up really helps you work on your business and track your time in a much better way to make sure that you are not only respecting your followers, but you're respecting yourself as well. So that's one of my favorite things about social media automation, is that it really helps me stay so much more focused.
And I agree too.
Yeah. So the other thing with social media automation and using a tool, whether you just use your own system with spreadsheets or you use something like Meet-Edgar, is this concept we call social batching. And why this is so cool is because you can then time block out some time in your day to sit down and actually crank out several updates. You can do it on your calendar once a month, 2 hours that you're sitting down, getting in that creative headspace and really cracking out about all of your social media content for the month. So you're really planning this whole strategy together. So you're not just having willy-nilly posts go out that aren't actually working together. And that's why doing it ahead of time on a spreadsheet or in your Meet-Edgar library can really help your marketing strategy be so much more cohesive. So jumping in a little bit more, not only does Edgar allow you to have this nice social batching when it comes to writing and getting creative with your updates, what it also allows you to do is to free up some time to engage with your followers, because you know when your updates are going out, your community is online, doing things like using your Facebook insights, your Twitter analytics to actually see, hey, this is how my community is actually utilizing social media. They're online more in the morning, so I want to make sure my content and my value is showing up for them when they're on there. So that can get tricky sometimes if you're not using a tool, because maybe you have to run and drop your kid off at school, or maybe you have to go into another meeting for your business, and you don't want to be driving and trying to post on social media just because your followers are there.
Exactly.
Yeah, so tools like Edgar are really helpful for that as well. And as we are going into this, I know sometimes when automation comes up with social media, a lot of time people can be like, this is a little bit spammy sounding. I don't know if I want to automate my social media. It's all about being authentic these days. But when it comes down to it, if you have these systems and automations in place, what happens to your social media is you will actually be able to have more conversations with people. You'll be able to engage with people, and you'll have that time to go on and reply to your followers. You'll have that time to do a little bit more social listening because all of your other updates are already set to go out. So social media automation definitely isn't a set it and forget it. It has to work in conjunction with you putting in the time to do those things that make that personal connection and humanize your brand and really get those meaningful touch points with all of your followers.
Fantastic.
So,
Megan, I think I want to go back to the hint you had on the bottom of this one. This one I cannot stress strongly enough. Mm-hmm. Use your schedulers to put in your conversation starters, your tips, and all of those sorts of things, because this is the stuff, especially this is your evergreen content, guys. That hint is really, really important. Post questions, post conversation starters that will continue your engagement. That is really, really key.
Yeah, so true. Anytime you're just posting a link on Facebook or on Twitter, ask yourself how or what makes your take on it different, or ask your followers what they think about it too.
Yeah.
Because that is a great way to get those connections going and show people that you're a real person behind these posts going out and that you're not just broadcasting things, that you want to connect with them. Cool. So social media helps you tell the story about what your product does. So obviously Meet-Edgar is not the only social media scheduling tool out there, but we've built our brand and we've built our tool to specifically help small businesses, solopreneurs, those people who don't have a huge marketing team. And our tool is going to be a little bit different than the others because this persona that we have identified, and it actually is something that we are not afraid to say, this is who we're for and this is who we're not for. And telling that story on social media becomes so much easier to attract the right followers to your page. Because again, if you have the wrong people following you, no one is going to engage with you because your content isn't relatable to them. So tell your story authentically, say who you're for. Don't be afraid to say who you're not for. It's not a game of making sure everyone likes you. It's a game of making sure your small niche actually likes you.
Love that quote. That is an awesome
Thanks for that. So yeah, that idea of telling your story in a really authentic way to make sure you're getting the right people really interested in you. And one way that this can really be achieved is sitting down and thinking about the values of your company. Like I said, our values are really to make sure we are giving small businesses a platform to succeed on marketing, to keep up with the big boys who have marketing teams of 10 people. And it becomes a way that you're able to really become an expert and an authority who people are going to go to when it's time to actually need your product or service. So I like to always stress as well, when you're thinking about your why, it's about what value you want to offer on social media to the world. And one thing that's easy for you to sit down and think about what you want to post is asking yourself this question of, if I did have 1 million followers, what would I post? How would I be conducting myself differently? And go do that, because that's going to really get you to that number you want to have. So if you're just starting out, if you're a small business, don't play small. Really make sure that you're getting your message out there and you're really connecting with your followers. And this process of finding your why and finding your values becomes even more, even better, because it's going to help you push through those times that might be a little bit harder in your business. If things aren't going as well, if you're seeing more churn, or if you're not selling as much product as you want, having that why and having those values about who your company is serving can get you to push through, knowing there are real people who can use your tool, who can use your product, and who need you to keep working so hard.
Exactly.
So is really helpful, even when it comes to your social media. And if you're starting to kind of struggle on thinking about the value of your business, there's a great TED Talk that's called How Great Leaders Inspire Action. And it goes through a great process of finding that why, how, what. And setting that is kind of the first step that I always recommend when you're going through your social media. So you can have that lens to actually make sure every update you're writing has that why in mind. And again, it'll create that bigger cohesive strategy when all your posts are going out through that same lens. All right. So the crazy algorithms out there, we all hate them. I know it, but they are there for a reason. And it is to make sure that you're seeing content you want to see and that everyone else on social media is seeing the content they want to see out there. So we can't hate them that much.
And guys, I think the biggest thing to remember about the algorithm is we want to complain that, we get added to groups and we do stuff and we don't get to see things and all of that sort of stuff. The reality of it is, the algorithm is there actually to help us. It's about playing within the algorithm, not beating the algorithm.
So true. I love that. It's definitely not something to shy away from too much, because again, it does want to make sure that people are staying on the platform. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram want people in there, so they want to serve up good content. So you need to produce that quality content that your followers want to see. The best thing you can do is to be human. Social media has the word social in it. So make sure you're being social again with those questions you're asking, and really humanize your brand, because when it comes down to it, people know, like, and trust people, not brands. So they want to see your face. They want to know who you are. Show that behind the scenes content, and you'll see your social media actually skyrocket in the way people are engaging with you, because no one wants to talk to a logo. They want to talk to a person.
Exactly.
On social media as well, what can really help with these algorithms is to rally your followers, again, asking questions, making sure that they're sharing things that they'll find valuable for their friends or family. Keeping that really relationship first, business second mindset in mind will help create that engagement and that community feel that the algorithms are looking for. And if you're really diversifying your content and making sure you're not just posting promotion after promotion, but you're giving people that Monday morning motivational quote or that really great, reflective blog post on a Friday night, it's really going to build up this trust that people want to keep following you. And that's also a signal to the algorithms. If they're liking a quote you post that doesn't really have anything to do with your business, it's a signal to the algorithms that they want to see more. So diversifying that is a really great way to kind of combat that reach issue that so many business pages do have. And another interesting one on Instagram specifically is test out doing things with a few longer form posts in there. I know a lot of people with Instagram just do a few of them, but Instagram's algorithm is so interesting in the fact that it is actually looking at what they call dwell time. So how long people are actually looking at a post. So switch it up and sometimes post a few paragraphs on Instagram if you want, you know.
For the wordy people like me and copywriters, that is awesome.
Yeah. Use those words well there.
We can write more words. Yes.
For sure. So yeah, test out link size, test all of this out, see what your community likes, because your community is really going to help you bust through the algorithms more than any other kind of tricks that you're trying. It's just to build authentic communities out there. So as you're going through this, I want to go through 4 steps kind of for the rest of this webinar on developing your social media strategy. And step 1 is to really make sure you have a strong brand voice and audience persona set up. This is so important, again, to make sure that every time someone sees one of your posts, what they do is say, oh, me too, I relate to that. That sounds like me. That storyline reflects my values and my wants and needs. And you're not going to be able to do that if you're not directly talking to someone. You know, for example, right now on this webinar, I have in mind a small business owner who is looking to really up-level their social media content. I don't have in mind a huge agency who's looking to produce content for tons of people. And that's allowing me to speak to you like we're having just a conversation rather than just speaking about marketing in general. And that's what you need to do with your social media, really. So at Edgar, we have a really playful brand voice, and we have an audience persona who is, again, a small business owner, and we're able to talk to people no matter who's on our Twitter or Facebook in the same voice. So it's really recognizable. So I'd sit down and actually write out a document, you know, name your persona, age them, talk about what their pain points are, talk about their goals in life, really get your whole team on board to make sure everyone's voice is going to be the same so you can have that consistent strategy. And it's really important, again, to make sure that you are talking right to that person and not just broadcasting to anyone on social media.
I love that.
Cool. And again, when you're speaking to your audience, you want to make sure that you're speaking to the features and benefits that are really going to up-level their lifestyle and experiences. No one is really interested in, say, let's use an airline, for example. No one's interested in being like, hey, come book your ticket. That's really not a fun experience, going on to like Kayak or Orbitz and typing in all of this and looking at the prices. But what is fun is thinking about getting off of that plane and seeing your relatives or going on that vacation. So the features and benefits of an airline on social media don't want to be just about the ticket process, even though that's where their revenue is coming from. It's about talking about the lifestyle, the goals, the way it's going to make your life better, and the way your experiences are going to be better there. So really become an authority and really think how people are going to feel and how your product can help solve their pain points. And you'll see such great success there. Brand recognition, you know, more and more it is all about Instagram these days, but this is really helpful for any social network. But it's all about making sure that not only your voice is really recognizable, but your photos and the colors you're using are too. Because it's this idea that we are such visual creatures, and it takes about 6 seconds for you to actually grab onto an image even. And if you can make it a consistent one with consistent colors, it can cut that time down and people can go, oh wait, I like this brand. Let me stop scrolling through my feed and actually pay attention to this post. This is an example of a beauty blogger, Kelsey, who has over 650,000 followers on her Instagram page. She obviously is not the only beauty blogger out there, but what she does so well is she is consistently posting the same post for her community in the same colors. People are recognizing it. They know they like her content, so they'll stop and actually read it rather than just scrolling. And it's helped her build her brand so well. So think when you're developing your brand voice, not only about the text and the tone, but also about the imagery you want to use. So step 2, after you've developed your brand voice and your persona, is to start developing your content. So as we were talking about at the beginning here, evergreen content, that stuff that's going to provide value to your community no matter what time of year you're sending it out at, is the golden stuff. But a lot of times these algorithms are doing things saying, hey, Twitter's saying you can no longer send the same tweet to the same Twitter account more than once. Facebook is prioritizing friends and family, and organic reach for pages have seemingly gone down. Instagram doesn't allow links in the comment of your post. LinkedIn is prioritizing video and personal stories more and more these days. So a lot of people are getting frustrated, being like, I developed this evergreen content. I have all these great blog posts, but the networks seem not to be liking that. Maybe this isn't the way to go. But I want you to still think about developing your content as evergreen, because that is the stuff that is still winning on social media to save you time and to add value to your followers. And it's just about connecting more authentically. You think about this Twitter change that frustrated so many people, but it's really made Twitter a better place. And Twitter was a place to start conversations in the first place. So having these conversations and making sure that your tweets are authentically supporting your community is their goal after all. So playing to those rules, you can still use evergreen content on all the networks. So when you're developing it, we definitely still suggest making sure that you can get the most use out of that content. And what evergreen content is really great for is on this graph here. What studies say your blog traffic look like is essentially you'll just send out your blog and your content will get a lot of clicks, and then it's just going to kind of peter off.
Yeah.
This one on the bottom is what's going to happen if you're creating evergreen content that you can share multiple times on each network. And that's going to get your bump in traffic every time it's shared. And if someone sees that same piece of content again, you never know if maybe they didn't have time to click on it and read it because they were driving their kids to school or they were in a meeting again. But maybe the next time it's posted, they're at home and they can click on it. So even if you're worried about someone seeing the same link twice, it's still going to provide value. And oftentimes, with this idea that only about 10% of your followers do ever see anything you're posting on social, it's not going to be seen by more than one person. So this is really, again, a great strategy to take when developing your content. And as you're developing your content, I also want to make sure you guys are sitting down and brainstorming awesome headlines. It is such an important thing on social media to make sure your headline is piquing people's curiosity and really compelling them to click that link. So here at Edgar, we actually spend a lot of time on headlines. We generate 15 to 20 for every blog post we write. And this is really not wasted time because it not only gets us to our best headline, but what it does is it has all of those different headlines that we didn't use. We can now use those as status updates to introduce that blog post because you never know what word choice is actually going to strike someone and is actually going to have that sort of connection with them. So it's not a wasted effort at all, and it's really going to help people share that piece of content and click on that piece of content if you're able to have a strong headline. And going on a little bit more with this headline idea is the concept that a lot of people actually don't read articles that they share or like. They just look at the headline and they say, you know what, this sounds like me. I want this status update to show something about me, so I'll share it. I'll go ahead and do that. And I know I have sent a link to like my sister or mom that I didn't read, but I know they would find value in.
Yeah, exactly.
So that headline truly is something that is so important on social media.
And as you build your brand and your information out there, guys, particularly people will share your stuff because you shared it. Because you shared it and the headline is good. So they may not read the article. So that's really, headlines are, I cannot stress enough. And as Megan said, spend the time writing multiple ones that then you can use and change up a bit.
So true, so true. So going along with this too, this idea of curiosity is so important when you're developing all of these headlines and all of these status updates, because our brains are actually wired to fill an information gap. Like that is a human trait. If we see something that we don't know, our brains say, hey, you want to click on that. You should know that. Yeah. So as you're doing this, think about the way you can take a boring status update saying, read my new blog post and add some curiosity into it. This might change into read my new blog posts about cats or find out why I recently adopted 22 tabby cats. And then you can get to this one that's really curiosity piquing. Can you handle 22 tabby cats at once? The shocking story of one brave man who did just that.
Yeah.
That one is so much more curiosity piquing than the others. So I really suggest it's not that something that's going to suck your creativity that much. I find it very fun to do, actually. So definitely it's a skill too. It's not a talent that people are just born with. So definitely take the time to build that skill up and do it over and over again. And it'll start coming so much more naturally to you. Cool. So use topics that spark the most comments on social media to inform your content creation. Again, I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but engagement is where it is at. So make sure the topics you're thinking about are topics you think people will want to talk about. And if you're starting to think, well, I'm not really sure what topics people want to talk about, here's some questions that we find really helpful is, what's something you do differently that is talk worthy? What's a big change that happened recently in your industry? What's something that is really newsworthy? People love to keep up to date on the most interesting things going on. What's a recent experience that you've learned from someone? Have you had a success or failure that you can share with your community that is going to allow them to learn from you and not have to reinvent the wheel and make the same mistakes that you did? And that's something that's hugely value adding to people on social media. What advice do you have for the reader? People want to, again, know your values as a brand. We are buying more and more about values. We are buying more and more from companies that share the same outlook. So share some advice, share something philosophical about how you do a thing or what you guys think about a thing at your company. And this is really going to be a great way, again, to make sure that the content you're producing for social media is going to spark conversations. So diversifying your content too is something that I always like to suggest. So this is our founder, Laura Roeder, and she tweeted, "Who here works with their spouse? Fun recipe for disaster." This is not about social media at all. She's a social media expert, obviously, but she also created a company, Meet Edgar, that is a remote working company. So her and her husband actually work at the company together. So it's something that is more diverse, and it's something that a lot of our community can relate to because a lot of people work from home, starting up their small business and stuff. So even though it doesn't have to do with a social media tip, it's a great question to diversify that and still get that conversation going. And she saw really great engagement on this. So this can also inform your entire content strategy. If she tweets just a simple question and a lot of people are interested in talking about it, from that, we actually wrote an entire blog post about your work from home survival kit. So the things that you're listening to on social media can be brought back into your business, can be talked about in your business in other ways too. So make sure you're looking at the posts that people are talking about so you can start creating more content around that. Going further on this idea, when you're actually putting that then back out onto social media, start thinking about the ways that people were connecting to that first post. So we saw a lot of people talk about boundaries when she tweeted that out. So our status update then for when we're putting our blog post out is going to mention boundaries because we know that word connects with our community. So it's a whole system of paying attention, listening, developing your content, and giving your community what they want to hear. So as you're starting to go ahead and develop your strategy also, I always like to say it's always great to promote yourself as well. So I know we're talking about only adding value, making sure you're having conversations with people, but you can't forget to promote yourself. And I know so many people are nervous to do that a lot of the time. So one thing that I like to say to make this a little bit easier is to start using things that are called desire words. It makes your status updates come across so much more authentic. And why this really works is because people don't want to be sold to on social media. And they say it takes about 7 touch points for someone to become loyal to a brand. And those 7 touch points can be used in a lot of different ways. Again, if you're providing someone with a funny meme and they laugh, you now have a little bit of an emotional connection with that person. So doing that diverse content and then leading to that sale with desire words makes it so much more elegant. So what this is, rather than saying want, rather than saying have, you want to say want. Rather than saying need, you want to say love. So it creates sentences like, you're going to want to buy this because you're going to love the results. Yeah. How much better does that sound than you are going to have to buy this because you are going to need the results? So think about the word choice you're using on your promotional posts and don't be afraid to promote it out there because you have value to offer to your community. Going a little bit further, when you're creating content, I want to challenge you all to add so much more video into your 2019 strategy, because that is what every algorithm is looking for. I'm sure if you've read a lot of articles or listened to other podcasts about social media, you hear this all the time. And it's because it's so true. We've seen it at Edgar. We are ramping up our video strategy because the reach and engagement on videos is so much better. And again, look at the results of your content, and you don't have to get a million new ideas to produce videos on. What you want to do is look at your most popular content, like your most popular blog posts, and just make a quick 5-minute video talking about the main tips in it, or make a quick 1-minute video that's going to really pull out some of your favorite quotes from that or something. They don't have to be long. They just need to be authentic and talking right to your community in that way. And start thinking a lot about giving people real-time experiences, because live video is getting the biggest reach these days on social media. And if you're a little bit scared about jumping on live, which I know I sure was at the beginning, one of our favorite tips is to use stories to start out. Stories are so good for this because they only last for 24 hours and they're gone. It's not going to produce anything that's going to ruin your beautifully curated feed or anything like that. And it's a great way to jump on for just 15 seconds, give a little talk, and you don't have to memorize a whole script that way either. You can do those short 15-second videos, making that great story and getting some more practice so you can get more comfortable speaking in front of a camera. Going a little further on your content creation here in step 2, if you are struggling to think about what other things to diversify your content, behind the scenes stuff works really well, again, to humanize your brand. People want to feel like they're getting something that others aren't getting by following you, you know, and that behind the scenes content produces that feel quite a bit. Things that inspire you. Inspirational content is some of the most liked and shared content on social media. So give those inspirational quotes, let people know what inspires you, help your community stay inspired going into 2019 here. Favorite tools that make your life easier, definitely share those out. You know, it's not going to be something that you necessarily are leading back to your own product or service, but sharing that with your community is so huge as well. Other people's content is great. You know, if you want to show your followers, hey, I'm going to curate the best feed for you in this industry, in your interest, regardless of where it comes from. I want to make sure you have the best news out there. So it's such a respectful thing. And it also helps you create partnerships with other brands and businesses out there. You know, tag them, let them know you're sharing, and they'll likely reciprocate. And that gets your brand in front of their followers' eyes, which is great news.
And guys, we can't expect, I keep saying this in the Engage to Engage stuff, you can't expect people to engage on your content and share your content if you're not giving that back. It is really, really key. If you want a viral post, then you need to put it out there that you equally will share to get a viral post. So make sure that you do share the good ones. You know, even on Family Capers, we shared the Christmas Baby Shark Christmas edition, Santa Shark. And that has got really, really cool. Yeah, it's actually quite cool, but it's got massive engagement too for the page because the video is great. Now, I'm not going to go and make Santa Shark for anything, but I'm going to share the video because our audience is going to relate to it.
Oh, that's so good. Nice.
I'll send you the link.
Yeah, please do. Man, that leads perfectly into this next one. You shouldn't stop laughing because post. Anytime you see something that makes you laugh, share it with your community. People like laughing a lot. It's a great way to diversify your content. Ask questions and share your successes and failures. That's right there is a ton of different topics you can take to diversify your content and really get cracking in 2019. Testimonials is other great content creation that we see really great success with because social proof is so important. It's all about that know, like, and trust factor we were talking about. If someone that they already know likes your product and shares that, it's going to be a really great way for them then to say, oh, okay, I trust this brand a little bit more because I know someone else has got this benefit from them. And when you're actually creating your testimonials for social media, make sure, again, that you're doing that sort of desire word thing where you're not just talking about your product, but you're saying, you know, this is how our community felt before they purchased it. These were their pain points. And then, you know, what did it feel like when you pulled out your credit card and you bought our service or product? And then that final piece is so important of what does it feel like now having this in your life? How has your life improved? And those stories are going to talk so much more to your community than just a dry testimonial about the product's features that way. So get those emotional things going in there.
And one
And
of
we
the
also,
great ways to do those is your Facebook Live videos. So record
so
them on
true.
Facebook Live, do an interview with someone who's done something with you. So that's a really, really good way to get into Facebook Live and have someone to hold your hand. You've got the client holding your hand. It's not just you
Yeah,
on
I love
screen.
that idea. Yeah. And that's so much better too for connection if they're actually seeing the client on the
Yeah,
video. And
exactly.
most people will be totally willing to do it. If they love your product or service, they want to be a part of your team in that way. So definitely don't be afraid to reach out to those power users to get them. Um, cool. So going along, we've talked a lot about this here, but we want to make sure that you're also always diversifying your content in a way that you're making sure people want to click on it. You're planning scheduled, funny, diverse content, inspirational content. It's going to really help remind your followers to follow first on Facebook, to make sure they're seeking out your Twitter and Instagram handles to see what's going on. And a lot of people, you know, are following brands that they don't even need a product of right now. They're going to need it maybe down the road. So you need to make a way that they care about your feeds, even if they don't care about your product for another year or so even. And you need to nurture that relationship, warm them up to the idea of why your brand is the right brand to choose when it comes time to need it. Because the market is so saturated these days. Consumers have so many choices of what services and products to buy. So make sure you're thinking not only about the people who are ready to buy right away, but also those who are still in that research phase. Next is making sure your status updates make sense on mobile. Everyone is consuming on mobile these days. So even though you're not creating your content on a mobile site, your audience is definitely consuming it there.
Yeah.
And one of the things, you know, is with video, make sure you're doing square or vertical video. That looks best on phones. Little tweaks here and there, like this is actually a post that is shared over here on the left on a computer. Over here on the right, it was shared on mobile. You might not actually see the difference right away, but it's in that description factor under the headline. That's not there on the mobile site. So if your status update doesn't make sense without that description, make sure you're writing it in the actual status update, because that's not going to be there for people who are looking at it on mobile. So look at it on mobile, look at your site, make sure that you're producing that content, because the majority of your followers are probably going to see it there. And when you're really writing these status updates, be conversational about them. You know, do the test of talking out loud and make sure it sounds okay. Talking, not just reading. You know, do something like, hey, if I was texting this to my friend right now, is this the language I would use? Because that's what people want to see on social media. They don't want to see dry language. They want to see language that fits in with those friends and family posts. So really make sure you're kind of filtering it through these things, no matter what type of content you're putting it out there, because that'll get you that great conversation and engagement so much better. Step 3 here is developing your schedule. So you've got all your content going, you've got everything that's going to lead people back to your site, lead people on their buying journey, but you need to now know when to send it out. And the first thing about the schedule is to make sure you're diversifying all that great content you created in the right way. And the best way I like to say is to use that 80-20 rule that you hear so much in life. And that's 80% of your content should be that valuable content. And then that last 20% can be your promotional content. So when you're developing your schedule, we do it in a category-based system at Edgar, which makes it so much easier to achieve this 80-20. So you can do, you know, educational category, informative category, entertaining category. Then that last category of the day can be a little bit more promotional. And it keeps your feed so robust and fresh, but also keeps you honest to make sure that you always have that sort of relationship first, business second mindset in mind. And going along with this category idea too, this is where that social batching I was talking to you about at the beginning comes into play, because it can really help you sit down and go, okay, it looks like I don't have as many quotes as I do blog posts. Let me this month really focus on popping into my Canva account and making some awesome quotes overlaid on some beautiful imagery to add in. Stuff like that. So really making sure that the categories are informing your content strategy and keeping you nice and organized. And what this helps do also is make sure that it's not as random, even if it's not promotional post after promotional post, but keeps people interested on the category-based system. Because again, we're going blog posts. I know my community can read in the morning more than the evening because I've been tracking that stuff. So I'm going to send my first post of the day as a blog post. Then at lunch, when people are just running around grabbing their food, let's send out a quote. You know, when they're getting home from work, let's send out a video. Maybe they'll get to consume that a little bit better. And you can start to, again, produce the content that your community can really engage with when they are on social. And doing this too in a system, whether you're using a spreadsheet or a tool like Edgar, is really nice for your scheduling, not only for social batching your content, but also knowing how many updates to send out. So this is some easy math that I always like to throw out there is, say you want to send 6 updates out every day, 5 days a week. This sounds like a lot of work until you start to break it down a little bit further. And that's to get a month's worth of fresh content. If you're using the social batching strategy, that's only having 30 updates a week or 120 updates a month. Again, these numbers sound big, but with the categories, say you have 6 categories, that's only having to add 20 updates per category per month. And that is so much more attainable when you have a schedule, when you have a system in place, and when you know that, okay, this month I need to find time to sit down and add those 20 updates to categories. This is when I'm going to block it out on my schedule, and it makes it so much easier. So popping into step 4 here is to analyze and adjust. Now, I myself hate numbers. I hate spreadsheets. I'm not a data girl at all, but it is so important on social media. It's kind of like this concept that you don't want to be playing golf in the dark. It's if you're swinging a golf club, hitting a ball, but never seeing where it's going, never adjusting, you're probably not going to get better at it. So it's so important that you push yourself to learn it. And it's actually a pretty nice platform on your Facebook Insights and Twitter Analytics that they break stuff down in a really meaningful way. And I always like to say, you know, as you're getting started, look at that engagement number. It's going to be that little orange line in your Facebook Insights. Look at that overreach. Make sure that you're really producing the statistics that are going to matter and not just looking at vanity statistics like, oh, this post got more likes.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's not going to drive that click-through rate. So, you know, having a link shortener set up, looking at the comment stuff, that's the content that you want to produce more of, not just those silly liked ones. So make sure you're paying attention to the right things when you are on it. And going a little bit further into your insights and into your analytics on Twitter, you can actually get some cool information about the demographics of your community. So going back to that step 1, when we were talking about your persona, if you got a little bit nervous that you're not sure who that is, go into your demographics section in your insights and you can see things that'll tell you like what their favorite TV shows, what other brands they're following, stuff like that. And it can really help inform the language you should be using in your status updates. And organic posting is definitely what we focus on here at Edgar because we believe that we want to make sure that communities who don't have, or small businesses who don't have a huge budget for marketing can still reach their target audience.
Exactly.
But your analytics actually can help inform your paid advertising strategy as well. So what this is really good for is looking at, you know, hey, this status update got a really low reach, but it got huge engagement rates. That's the post that I should be putting a few dollars behind to get more reach because it connected with my community so well. So those analytics are not only great for your organic posting schedule, but can really help inform and make sure the dollars you're putting behind the tweets you're promoting or the Facebook posts you're promoting are the right posts. So how you get to this actually is in your Twitter analytics here, you're going to go to analytics, tweets, top tweets, promote, and that can be a way that you can easily put a couple of dollars behind it. And when I say that, you know, we'll put as little as $5 behind some of our posts sometimes, so it doesn't have to be a huge amount. And I like to say it is these little risks, these littler things that you can do more often is going to help way more than putting like $100 behind a post. So don't be afraid to just do that once in a while with the posts you see working really well. So getting back to the algorithms, when it comes to this analyze step here, I want you guys to always focus less on follower account when you're looking at your analytics. Because it's more, it is so much more about community engagement and those meaningful interactions. So definitely don't get caught up if your followers are dropping or if your followers aren't as high as your goals you set were. Focus on the right things about the community who is there and forget about the people who aren't there because the ones who are following you need your value.
Yes.
Facebook, it's all about meaningful engagement. It's all about consistency. You know, their algorithm even goes as far as to take Messenger into account. So if someone sends a link over Messenger, the next time that link is shared, it's going to rank higher in the news feed. So again, all of these things, it's all about these micro little engagements that are pushing that along. LinkedIn is actually interesting. They are the only network that uses real people in their algorithms. So when LinkedIn was purchased by Microsoft, they changed up a lot of things, and they're looking way more for personal posts than anything these days. So share your personal stories, share your videos. What LinkedIn is really doing is the algorithm's identifying posts that they think are really personal stories. A person is actually coming in and looking at this, and if they find it to be a really connected personal story, they're going to boost that hugely. So get really authentic and share your product or services story on LinkedIn. Twitter, it's all about consistency, timeliness, and being authentic. So with this whole idea of not being able to post the same tweet to the same Twitter account more than once, it is going to be something that a lot of people are like, well, why should I use a scheduling tool then? But you can still make sure that you're creating variations, and we'll go over how Edgar does this, but you're creating these variations that are still authentically introducing that same evergreen concept or link that you're sharing so that you can get it out when people are on Twitter.
And go back to those headlines you created, because they're the
so true. Such a good reminder. Instagram, again, practice doing a few more long posts, see the really great benefits of the dwell time in their algorithm. Instagram's interesting because it is categorized by hashtags more than any social network. So get creative with your hashtags. I like to always say, use a mixture of the popular ones and kind of branded ones that are a little bit smaller, because it's kind of hard to show up in that 9x9 square grid on some of the most popular hashtags because so many people are using them. So seeking out the smaller ones is really helpful as well. So you're allowed 30 hashtags on Instagram. So do a mixture, test out kind of different communities to really get your posts to get a little bit more reach on Instagram.
And don't hashtag stuff. It's like keywords, guys.
Very true.
Those that are relevant. And if anyone's looking for hashtags, there's an app called a tool called displaypurposes.com. I don't know if you know one.
I've never heard of it actually, though. That sounds
great. They filter out the banned hashtags. It's free.
Nice. That sounds awesome. I'm writing that down right now. Thank you.
I'm going to pop it in chat as well for everyone. I'm pretty sure it's displaypurpose.com. If I've got the link right, just put an S on it, guys. It'll be a case of that. But it is so handy. And when we talk about batch creating, make sure that you're doing it you go and do your hashtags. You can batch create your hashtags as well. So go and batch create those hashtags that are going to work for you.
Oh, I love that too. There's no reason to have to get creative with your hashtags every single time. Nice.
Yeah, exactly. I love display and even so mobile friendly. It works on
such a bonus. Cool. So once you do jump into your analytics and you start diving into needing to adjust your strategy for that content that's talking to your community, keep things organized. In Edgar, it's really great to have a category that's kind of like your greatest hits, so you can reshare those more often than your others. Those blog posts that drive more traffic, those posts that get more reach, stuff like that. Or if you're doing it with a spreadsheet, make sure you're keeping track of your strongest content. So that's the content you can share more often. And what social media evergreen content and all of this is really great for is making sure that you're creating content, posting it to social, getting shares, getting leads, getting customers. That's the cycle. One gone right is so, so good. And why I like to say doing this in the evergreen way still works and is still so important is because the more social updates you post, the more opportunities for that to work. So rather than just having one, you're going to see it compound quite a bit, and you're going to get more and more traffic to your site. Again, making sure you're respecting the people who are really interested in buying right away, as well as those who need a little bit more time and a little bit more nurture. So cycling those through, you never know when it's going to hit someone at the right moment. So going a little bit further here, we're going to go into the yeah, but section. So a lot of people, again, I touched on this a little bit, are going to have this, yeah, but I don't want to repeat things too often. That's going to annoy my followers. I'm afraid of losing them. I'm afraid of it coming across not organic. But when it comes down to it, if you have a 3-month content block that you're posting for, that's only posting the same content 4 times a year.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but there is no way I can remember a status update that I saw from a company or brand that I saw 3 months ago. So definitely don't get too afraid of that. People are not going to remember it most of the time because you read everything you post, but your followers definitely do not. And if they do, they're really not going to get mad. Think about watching a commercial on TV. If it's a cute commercial, you don't mind seeing it one day to the next. So if you're producing that quality content, people are not going to be angry if maybe they see it a couple of times.
And bear in mind, guys, that your audience changes.
That's so true. You get new followers all the time, and
Yep.
you want them to have that whole story of who your brand is. That's a really good reminder. So this is actually something that is a really good example of what you can no longer do on Twitter. You can no longer send this same tweet out twice. So Wine Tracker is a really great company. They use Edgar as well and have seen really great success. Looking here, they went and posted this on October 14th, 2015. They've also posted it on October 4th, and they got retweets, they got likes each time they posted it. So they know it's a valuable piece of content that's driving traffic, that's getting people to engage with it. So what do you do now that you can no longer do this? And that is to make sure you're starting to put a lot of variations into your posts. So in your Meet Edgar library, we actually have everything set up to make sure you're staying compliant with these rules.
I love
and every time
this is one of my favorites.
Our developers and product team really did a great job with this for sure. But essentially, every time something goes out, Edgar's going to expire to make sure you're in full compliance with that. And then if you want to think of this as what you want to do is think about the way you can reshare this with a different headline, a different question, a different pull quote from it. And this is what it looks like in Edgar, how you do it. Is the first update is the first one that's going to be sent out. It's going to expire once it does. And we have this cool button that says add variations then. When you click the add variation button, you can add as many variations as you'd like, and it's going to pop up additional text boxes where you can add in your different language, where you can reshare that link. And every time this post comes up in the rotation of your post, a different variation will be sent out to Twitter and then expired. So again, you're in that mindset when you're adding this content that you're able to just crank out a bunch of variations, say what you want to say, use all those other headlines that weren't used, and really make sure that you're producing some really quality variations so you can still share that evergreen content on Twitter. It's really cool also to make sure that while you're doing this, you're still adding value to drive traffic. And I want you to kind of think when you're creating these variations, what call to action do you want people to take? Do you want them to click the link? Do you want them to sign up for something? And think about different ways you can say this, again, because you never know what's going to hit someone, what language is going to speak to them more over something else. So it's actually kind of a way that you can look at Twitter's new rule as a way to really help increase your social media marketing plan rather than limit it. Cool. So on to the next but is, won't scheduling all my updates make me sound like a robot? We want you to make sure, again, that you're putting all of these tools we talked about today into play. And if you're considering the intention behind every post that you're writing and expressing multiple ways of having that intention go out to your followers, it's going to sound really relatable. You're going to humanize your content, and scheduling it is not even going to be noticed because all they want to do is connect with your brand. So you're still writing all your updates in your voice, and that's why it's so important to have that brand voice set. It's not going to sound like a robot at all as long as you're doing that right. And the manner in which they're posted to your audience, they don't really care as long as they're getting that value that they want to see. So focus on quality more than anything. It's going to be something that scheduling it out and not having to just come up with the update on the fly is going to actually produce more quality content, and you'll probably end up sounding less like a robot. So guys, that brings me to the end of our little presentation. Like I said, definitely reach out to us on Twitter. Use the hashtag Edgar Challenge or hashtag Edgar Webinar, and we'd love to hear what you're working on, what's working, what's not. Keep the conversation going. We love talking social media so much. So definitely tweet at us, and really keeping in mind, the sooner you start, the sooner it's going to be able to be adjusted, and the sooner you're going to get that data to really make sure you're producing the content that your audience wants to see.
Megan, I'm bringing us back on video so that we can finish
great.
on screen. I just thought I would let you know before
I appreciate that. For sure.
back on. because you hate that moment in time that you're just like,
Oh
oh,
my gosh.
I've got this presentation and I'm done now and it's all great. Okay. Thank you for joining us. That was awesome and informative. And for those guys who don't know, Meet Edgar is in the processes of getting the final approval for Instagram as well. So we will be so excited to welcome Megan back in the new year so that we can cover Instagram stuff with you as well. So that's pretty exciting. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us for the skills webinars for 2018. This is our first full year in running them. We started them early 2017. It has been great fun hosting them. I'm looking forward to bringing back next year. We are taking a break. We are going to take a break and allow those of us who've got school holidays and children to take a break over that period. And plus Clive and I are focusing on getting our masterminds organized in January. So for those of you who don't know, I'm running a 1 on the 52-week marketing challenge, which I'm actually going to pop into the chat boxes for you here. And don't forget to take Megan up on Meet Edgar. So if you're wanting to look at upping your video content, your social media content, and have me reminding you on a regular basis, and then having people like me, Megan, come in and do expert sessions with you once a quarter, that's going to be huge. We've got monthly marketing Q&A calls in there. This is your chance to access me in a group level without cutting off your right arm to work with me, PR coach. Group level to do those sorts of things. And the most awesome thing is that we have 3 people who've already done the 52-week marketing challenge in 2018, which was my stalled batch group of 20 returning to do the 2019 challenge. And Clive is working on your goals. So if you want to touch base with Clive and work with him on the goal setting stuff, by all means, jump in and do that. He's going to run you through goal setting, goal accountability, and a mastermind group all on that one about learning the strategies. Because if we do not do anything, we don't plan, we don't act and evaluate our goals, then we are not taking action on them. And this is where tools like Meet Edgar come into going, well, how much time do I want to spend on social media and those goals and batch creating and using all of those things. So if you're thinking, I don't want to do goals is boring, unfortunately, it's how communities like ours became established. It's how things like Meet Edgar and organizations like ours come around. Without the goals, without the planning, the rest of it doesn't happen.
So true. Such a good
thank
reminder.
you for joining us again. It's been
Oh my
awesome to
gosh.
have you here. I can't wait to going into stuff. I can't wait. I'm getting so
Yeah. Us too. We are on the edge of our seat.
If
Oh
you
my
need
gosh.
someone to play, let me know. Happy to play. Guys, do not forget to take up and Megan on the offer today. You have got the opportunity, if you use the code business on the links that we popped in, to get a month's trial of Meet Edgar and get it started. So while we're relaxing over that social media Christmas period, take her up on the offer. And we will
definitely do.
and
yeah, so grateful for the opportunity to talk to you guys too. I appreciate it.
We love the value and the information you share. And I do follow Megan's point. Take the challenge and tweet today. For those of you who aren't using Twitter, Edgar is the first way I actually got my head around Twitter. And talking about evergreen content that is dead, I re-loaded to Edgar the other day posts that I first loaded 4 years ago.
Oh man, that's so fun.
And they're getting engagement because the tips and the evergreen nature and content of it is still the same. So bear that in mind, guys. Evergreen content is not dead. It's about sharing it when your audience is ready to take it.
Very true.
Have a great week, everyone. We will see you again in 2019. Have a good year. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.